Carlos Heisey with ESPN Los Angeles on the Road to Recovery, presented by Hoag Orthopedic Institute, presented by one of our biggest football fans, Dr. Alan Beyer. Dr. B, happy week one. We're wrapping up week one as fans are watching this. But, Doc, how impressed were you by the first kickoffs of the season?
I thought it was a great week one. There were some surprises. There were some expected results. I'm looking forward to tonight's game. The Monday night game looks like a good match. I'll tell you that NFC division with the Bears, the Vikings, and Green Bay is, looking awful solid division.
It's really going to be a toss-up. I think one of the toughest divisions in the NFL. One of my biggest takeaways from week one is we don't have that many injuries to talk about. Probably the biggest injury was a heartbreak that the Ravens fans took against the Bills to wrap up Sunday night.
I think that there are a lot of broken hearts in the Baltimore side, even though that game was in Buffalo and it was a tremendous comeback. Josh Allen really engineered a great comeback. You certainly can't blame Derrick Henry. I mean, he had an awesome game. He looked like Derrick Henry of old. Lamar looked great. That was a great game. And you saw some classic matchups this weekend. The Eagles and Dallas on Thursday to open it all up. Dallas could have won that game if CeeDee Lamb had held on to a couple of those passes in the fourth quarter. Philly looked a little sloppy, a lot of penalties. Not to mention spitting on the quarterback. That's probably something that your coach is not happy when you do that. I thought the Chargers-Kansas City game on Friday night was a great game. Chargers got that monkey off their back about not being able to beat Kansas City, and that portends well for them. I think Kansas City offensive line showed a continued struggle, kind of like carryover from the Super Bowl.
And that's surprising since we've talked about Rashawn Slater and his absence.
I agree, but Kansas City's O-line, I think, had some porosity. I mean, they had Pat Mahomes pressured. So and you're right, that's missing a guy. San Diego, I'm getting on the San Diego band. I still call them San Diego. Look at that. I'm getting on the Chargers bandwagon this year.
Wow.
I think this might finally be the year that the Chargers can win their division and go deep. I'm coming around. Harbaugh, to this Harbaugh, the West Coast Harbaugh, I'm coming around.
Dr. Beyer, it's only week one. Is this the epitome of an overreaction Monday?
Probably. I mean, I think USC is going to be in the top 25 in college football, even though they beat two absolutely crappy teams. No, it's great. Football's back. It's great. The Walker Cup this weekend. Let's talk a little bit about the Walker Cup in the U.S. That was a great venue. Always a great preview to the Ryder Cup that comes up in a couple of weeks. So much going on. The Angels, our manager's okay. Hopefully he'll be back next year. It wasn't some of the things I was fearing. So let's hope for next year. Dodgers still got some work to do. They ain't a lock. Ohtani came through, but they can't. San Diego sunk to their level, fortunately, the last week or 10 days. That division's still open. San Diego could still snatch that National League West.
Yeah, yet both teams seem like they don't want to win division at all.
I know.
But, Doc, yeah, this is the time in that sports calendar that all sports fans can get excited for, especially with the NBA even around the corner. We're thinking about Lakers Media Day and how we prepare for that, too. So this is the time where, hey, summer is over. We got football, we got basketball, we got the NHL, we got NBA around the corner. We've got, of course, baseball. And this is fun. This is fun for all sports fans and for all the action.
Best time of the year. And so far this weekend, my phone didn't ring a lot. I mean, people asking questions. It was my fantasy league participants. Nobody was asking me, how long is this guy going to be out? Those questions weren't coming this week. It was a relatively clean week in terms of that.
And
the one Xavier Worthy,
correct,
is the one question mark we're going to have. No, I haven't seen any news come out about him. I suspect he probably subluxed his shoulder, might have a torn labrum. That's not necessarily surgical, but we'll have to see when we get the MRI report.
Which surprises me why you have a lot of faith in the Chargers win over the Chiefs, where Mahomes has, of course, been able to do a lot of Mahomes magic. He doesn't have Rashee Rice, who's suspended. He lost to Xavier Worthy in the first quarter of the first game of the season. So Mahomes and the Chiefs, they were still able to make it a game of some sort. Still has Travis Kelce. But yeah, I'm very curious to see how they survive with Juju Smith-Schuster at the helm for the Chiefs wide receiving core.
And Travis Kelce will be doing a lot of wedding planning too, so his head might not be quite as in it as usual.
Let's go to another LA team, the Rams, and you kind of alluded to it earlier. Doc, I was proud to say that I was covering another Rams season, and I was there at the stadium at SoFi Stadium, and I got to say, the Rams, for the most part, protected Matthew Stafford, and he didn't look like he was in pain of some sort. But that was just me watching from the press box. What did you see? What did you observe while watching the game on TV?
They got to him a couple times. He was maybe not quite as mobile. Not that he was ever the most mobile quarterback going into this, but as I kind of alluded to the last time we chatted, he had his epidural only a few weeks ago. I worry about what's going to happen 4 or 5 weeks from now as the effects from that epidural are going to wane a little bit and maybe he starts to have some more back pain. So the question's going to be, does that one epidural and the rehab he's done last him through the season, or is this going to become one of those nagging injuries during the season and we see a little bit more of Garoppolo than we kind of expected to?
There were two instances that really stuck out to me where he dropped back, he was under pressure, and just based off his experience and his smarts, he quickly dumped it off for a quick incomplete pass right in front of Kyron Williams to just show his avoidance. But there was also another play earlier in the game where he was sacked for a big TFL, and he did go down, but to see him get up, and again, it didn't seem like he was in any discomfort when he was getting up. I think that was a huge sigh of relief in the whole stadium who haven't seen Matthew Stafford all preseason and were only hearing about, hey, is his back going to be an issue all season?
No, I agree. That was a big sigh of relief when you saw him get up from that big loss. But this is going to be one of those cumulative things. We're going to have to see what happens after him getting banged around for 3 or 4 weeks, not just week one.
What's your thought, Doc, when it comes to, say, the Rams and even Sean McVay's mysterious way of talking about Stafford's back and how we've seen it from the last time we spoke about the concerns around it and now kind of the more relaxed perspective of Stafford's injury and how the Rams are starting the season 1-0?
Well, I think he talks about Stafford's back the same way that Harbaugh talks about Najee Harris's eye. You never hear anything, right? Now, I think Najee carried the ball once or twice in that San Diego game. You heard nothing. You heard nothing since July 4th when it happened. So I think that these coaches kind of like to not keep it in the limelight and keep people talking about it, keep it front page, let their actions speak better for themselves. They've always felt that the less you let the other team know what's really going on, the less they can plan for it. So that's a big part of it. But I think that, again, the real answer on Matthew Stafford is how long is this going to last? 18 weeks with one bye is a long, long time.
On that topic of epidurals, I mean, we haven't even talked about the huge trade of Micah Parsons moving from the Cowboys to the Packers and not playing without an epidural. What was your reaction to that?
Well, I think that defense is different than offense. You can throttle back if you get a little twinge and maybe not rush quite as hard if you're feeling a little bit of pain. Whereas when you're the quarterback, you gotta be just kind of getting away from everybody every single second that you see them coming. So you're not in control. The defenseman is in control of how hard he's going to push on a given play and how much he's going to stunt and how much he's going to do. Micah Parsons already made a difference, in several different ways. Green Bay's odds of getting to the Super Bowl changed significantly once they signed him. Dallas's didn't change much. I'm not going to talk about Jerry Jones and Micah Parsons because we don't have 3 hours. I think that Micah Parsons always has the option of getting an epidural. Now, I haven't really gotten detail on what his injury is, whereas Stafford's, we kind of know it's a disc issue. So the epidural injection does indeed quiet down the inflammation around a disc that's bulging a little bit and is of some help. If Micah Parsons' issue is more a muscular issue rather than a disc issue, there's a limit to how much an epidural really helps that. So you might not see him get an epidural injection. He's just going to have to strengthen and work his way through the season on that.
You're right. Micah Parsons really showing why he is a difference maker and recording a sack. Doc, for those who are tuning in to the Road to Recovery presented by the Hoag Orthopedic Institute for the first time, when we're talking about epidurals, can you explain how epidurals work? What is the process of having an epidural? What is that sensation? What is that pain like? And how does it relieve whatever issues a Matthew Stafford or a Micah Parsons is feeling?
So it's an injection of some anti-inflammatory medicine, typically a corticosteroid, into the space outside the spinal canal. So that's why epidural means outside the dura, which is the tissue that surrounds the spinal cord and bathes the spinal cord in cerebrospinal fluid. So this injection is outside the spinal canal, so it doesn't cause the numbness and everything that you get with a spinal injection, which typically is given to people for pregnancy, for delivery sometimes, for various surgeries on the lower extremities. Those are spinals, which actually numb the whole area below the level of the injection, below the waist. So this is more to deliver an anti-inflammatory to the area where there's inflammation, nerve root inflammation from the disc, in Matt Stafford's case, from the disc that's bulging.
See, Doc, I'm even learning more than the first timers too. Always thought epidurals were one and the same, whether they were pregnant women delivering or epidurals delivered also in athletes and injuries. But you're saying that
So
they're different.
many pregnant women get an epidural injection just for pain management, because if you do a spinal, you knock out their muscle control and then they can't push the baby. A spinal is done when it's a surgery on a lower extremity or an emergency C-section or something like that, where they'll also put the woman to sleep as well as give her the spinal. So epidural does not knock out the muscle control. So it's purely for cutting down pain, for cutting down inflammation and pain.
I love the education, Doc, and that's why we love to educate here on the Road to Recovery presented by the Hoag Orthopedic Institute. Now that the NFL season is really up and running, we're going to have so much more to talk about, Doc, and because of that, it's going to be a very busy road to recovery.
Yes, it is. And I'm here for you except the next 5 days when I'm going to be visiting Pinehurst, North Carolina, visiting the links in Pinehurst, North Carolina. So don't call me, I'll call you.
It's going to be awesome. Hit him straight, Doc.
Okay.
Thanks, Dr. Beyer, and thank you for joining us on the Road to Recovery presented by the Hoag Orthopedic Institute.